Well, ladies and gentlemen, at least where we are, I'm not sure where you are, but it is Sunday morning here. And I'm a little bit excited because Sunday afternoon I'll have the man, the myth, the legend, Rex Bear on the channel. But for now, we have another man, another myth, another legend, Wayne Steiger himself. And this is not your normal Sunday morning show. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing well, my friend. Doing good. Love the hat. How are you doing?
I am, if I've been better, Wayne, I don't remember when. I really don't.
Well, that's a good place to be. It's like this morning here in Colorado. It is overcast. It's cool, and it's a very quiet morning.
And
And yeah, it's in fact, um, from my perspective, this is the type of music I'd want to put on Mark Almond. You know, the city.
And it's funny because what was I going to say? Oh, I did my meditation this morning with Sandra, and then we do a little quiet contemplation after that. And the thought just hit me that this is the first relationship I've been in since I've been awakened. And
Mm.
that was rather profound to me because, I'm a very optimistic guy and I expect everything to be perfect. And sometimes in the real world, everything's not perfect. And sometimes you have to realize that if it's your first time doing something since you've been enlightened, it would be stupid to expect everything to be perfect from the first shot. So there's going to be adjustments. There's going to be, give and take. There's going to be up and down. And I found a new truism, Wayne. The middle way is the only way in relationships. It can't be your way. It can't be her way. It's got to be some way in the middle, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah. It's I look at the relationship I have with Lynn,
And you
and
came together through the awakening process, right?
yeah, we actually I was already on the path, and she was still pretty much as she said, she believed in the whack-a-mole god. Like every time you pop your head up, he's up there to whack you back down.
That's a good one. I was just doing whack-a-mole about 3 days ago, Wayne.
So that was her vision and perception of God. Is that you don't pop your head up. If you don't sing, you're not going to get hit. And that comes from primarily a Southern Baptist doctrine.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of adjustment for her particularly. And so yeah, we both made this discovery together.
Wayne, what is COPD?
COPD?
Somebody said Art Bell had severe COPD.
I don't know. I heard that he overdosed. And
Yeah.
actually,
Actually,
I don't think he overdosed. I think he made a conscious decision on how he wanted to go.
you think he just checked out?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's,
think
it's certainly sad that someone gets to that point.
well, when you face end of life decisions, let's say you suddenly develop a disease and it's terminal. What do you do? Do you want to go through all the pain, or do you want to take the way out that I think that we should have the choice of determining how you want to go? I mean, if
Yeah,
you're going to die of a terminal disease, why face the pain?
yeah. COPD evidently is a pulmonary disease. I don't know what the
Yeah.
CO is, but it's a pulmonary disease, and it fits into what you're saying. My only thought would be, Wayne, if I've got this dread disease and I kill myself, and Sophia's FaceTiming me. That's funny. And I kill myself. What happens if they find a cure the next day?
Yeah, but you know what? And I'll be very crude. When I was in my worldly ways, there was a saying, if something was, if we'd all have it. Um,
Yeah.
you can't go through, I mean, I think it's a decision you have to make for yourself. It's individually.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if we have a choice of how we come in, but I think we certainly have a choice of how we could go out. By the way, if you study many of the ancient cultures out there, particularly, whether it be Babylonian, if you look at Egyptian, um, Aborigines, the process of death was not one that was so much feared as it was one that was a journey that was about to continue.
Right. And we have to get ourselves back to that place.
I think we do too. I was out yesterday and was meeting with some friends, and we got into the discussion about when you pass over. The question they asked of me is, well, how do you define that? And I said, well, let's talk about that. Do you, and this is what I think most people have the perception, Jeff, and you tell me your thoughts. I think most people in a Christian indoctrination believe that they're going to have bodies like this, that they're going to come out of these physical bodies. They're going to have hands, arms, they're going to speak, they're going to be able to hear, see. And the question I posed to the group yesterday I was talking to, I said, so are you telling me then consciousness is that contained in your spirit?
Is consciousness contained in your spirit? I think so.
Well, then, you see, that becomes a dilemma, because my question becomes then, you don't remember you coming in here. Why would you remember when you're over there this?
The question that comes to my mind is, why don't we remember? Are our memories wiped? Are those things stolen from us? Do we not remember because we're not prepared? In my mind, I'm thinking we keep coming back until we do facilitate our ability to realize that this is a game, to realize that this is a trap, until we do realize our divinity, sovereignty, and freedom upon leaving this place, and do learn how to retain our memories and say, oh, I'm not going back there, or I'm making a choice of whether to go back there or not.
Interesting we're having this conversation. So absorb this one, my friend. A dedicated server. Now, I come from the technology industry.
Right.
All right, you ready for this? Now, put this in a first-person tense. A dedicated server is one who ensures no rogue programs.
A dedicated server okay, so we're
A dedicated server.
we keep coming back till we learn how to be a dedicated server.
Well, no, I think that this is the problem. I think that there are dedicated servers here already who are, in fact, prohibiting us. They ensure that no rogue program enters into the system.
Gotcha.
You see, I think that's the problem we have. We can't recognize who these dedicated servers are.
So we need to learn how to be a virus.
Yeah, well, we are a virus. That's the problem.
Right.
That's not the problem. That is the reality. We are a virus.
Right. But I'm talking about if it is a dedicated server, we have to learn how to be a rogue virus and be able to exit the dedicated server. So is the dedicated server another metaphor, another name for the Matrix?
I think it's a religion. I think it's the archons of religion.
I would agree with you 100% on that.
Because they won't let you think outside the box.
Right.
Here's another thought. What if we are counterfeit spirits taken by souls?
Explain.
We have this dilemma. Now, if you look in the Christian dogma, there is a reference in Hebrews 4:12 that says the word of God is actually
quick, powerful.
Yeah, can actually divide bone from marrow, spirit from soul.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the only reference that really gives us, well, John says the saving of your soul as well. But here's the point. No one can actually define the soul. If you study the soul throughout cultures of history, the soul comes in and out of favor. There's many cultures who believed all we were spirit beings. There were other cultures who believed once you left, you were gone. But I came upon this thought when I was just meditating, and I said, well, what if a counterfeit spirit is taken by a soul? Yeah. I mean, a soul is consciousness, right?
Well, I'm almost 40 years into this thing now, since if you include the 20 years in Christianity and almost 20 years now in I don't even know what to call what we are. Free form spirituality, open thinking, free thinking, whatever. And when I combine the teachings of what I consider the diamond portion of the ancient Hebrew scriptures, the diamond portion of the first century Greek scriptures, with the Nag Hammadi, with the Kabbalistic studies I've done, with all of the eclectic, clothesline study, if you will, trying to study as much as I can. What's settled in my mind, and on August 5th, 2018, it could be very different from August 5th, 2019. But in my mind, what I see is that we were created originally by the Elohim, whoever they are, as spiritual beings made in their image, spiritual beings. And as the Christ or Jesus, the Lord, whatever you call him, as he walked on earth, he was an Elohim. He was able to manifest physically. He was able to dematerialize if he wanted to and be in pure spirit form. And the way I read all of the texts and kind of put the text together, and I've got a book on this, Serpents and Doves in the Garden of the Gods, it seems to me to be rather plainly explained that we were spiritual beings. We were still trying to develop our physical manifestation abilities. We got impatient, and an enemy tricked us into these bodies, and we became living souls. In my theology, these are souls. We are spirits trapped in souls. And I think we keep coming back until we learn the lesson that this is not us, and we learn to get out of the dedicated server. We learn to get out of the matrix, and we learn to have at least have the place of being, I'm divine, I'm sovereign, I'm free. Do I want to go back and learn more, or do I want to go somewhere else and continue my evolution as a being, which I think goes up to the Elohim level and perhaps even beyond. The Elohim probably aren't the top of the totem pole, if you will. That's the way I see it at this point anyway.
Well, I have a subscriber on my channel. He is a Taoist, actually lives over in China. And in our exchange of emails, his point of view is, he says, the problem with the Western world is that, he says, everyone believes this Hebraic spell. And everything you just told me was based on Hebrew history. And the Orientals have a different point of view. I mean, they don't see this God, this Hebrew God, this Christian God, as being the creator.
Right. I don't think the Christian God is I think he was part of the creation team and then went rogue. So the God of the Bible is not the true divinity in my studies and in my opinion, for whatever that's worth.
Well, it's just interesting to get people who never were indoctrinated into the mindset, who approach it from a different perspective, a different reality is what I've told them.
Yeah.
And I said, I've come to the conclusion that I reject this Hebrew God. I reject all these world gods. I'm just telling you, Jeff, I don't want any part of them. And in fact, I wrote this in my meditation today. And here's the thought. Is it required in this life that we choose a God?
No. Why would we?
See, I when it's my time, someone wrote me this very terse email. It was a Christian, condemning me, telling me, blah, 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 blah. And I wrote back to her and I said, isn't it amazing? I said that, where's the love in this? Yeah. I said, who made you the judger? And I said, how dare you assault me with your bigotry and your racism?
Right.
Take it somewhere else. But the point is, so are we going to have, you see, I think that may be part of that point. I'm not choosing any of these gods. I haven't met the real God. Every God that's here, Jeff, would you say, and this is my opinion at 63, is that all the gods I have ever read about are all man-made concepts.
I would say yes and no and yes and no. They are definitely man-made. Our understandings and what we read of them and hear of them are definitely man-made concepts. I still have a hard time dismissing the concept in toto. I think there are some spiritual beings out there. I believe the Father and Mother are out there. I believe there are other spiritual beings.
Do you think God has ever manifested physically on this planet to the human race.
I don't think the ultimate inexpressible ones ever have, but I believe there has been manifestation on this planet of Elohim, of mid-level gods, if you will.
Okay.
I can't prove that, but that's what I think.
Well, I mean, and that's just another point of view. I think from the Golden Age, if you take, the Greek pantheon, even the Sumerian pantheon, it's very much the same point. There's this mid-level. Even in the Urantia book, they talk about this mid-level group. And
I'm reading through that now. But I think that...
Isn't that like eating oyster crackers?
Oh, it's like, it's like sucking up to a straw.
I mean, seriously.
Is that we are divine, we are sovereign, we are free, we have the spark of divinity within us, and we have to stop looking outside of ourselves for divinity. We have to stop looking for someone else to come back and save us. We have to stop looking for our ship to come in and swim out and meet it. We have to realize that this life is not about finding God. This life is about finding out that you are God.
So I'll share something with you, Jeff.
So I'll work with gods. I'll learn from gods, but I'm not worshiping a God.
Yeah.
I'm not doing obedience to a God. I'm not giving my divinity or sovereignty or freedom to a God. All they really are is a more developed, all they are is who I will one day be.
So let me ask you two things. I had a very profound awakening yesterday morning. Literally, I was awakened with this thought, but I want to finish this one out. So do you think that it may be possible that there is yet a second death beyond this death?
Wow, never pondered that, but it certainly seems like it could be logical.
See, I think that you talk about the Elohim, and Psalms 84 is really the one that they can't really address because there talks about the big guy, and the big guy put judgment on this Elohim.
Right.
He said, you screwed up. He said, I put you in charge of watching them. You couldn't even do that.
And that gives you a whole new spin on the parable of the vineyard.
Yeah, it does. Because you know where the reference is coming from.
That's a good one. I'm going to write that down.
So this is why we do. It's not your normal Sunday morning show. But so here's the thing that I pulled away from that. I think they're afraid of this second death that is mentioned, by the way, in the New Testament doctrine. Does not
this is the second
say
death.
That it's not the first death to be afraid of, it's the second death.
He said, don't fear those that are able to kill body and soul, which I would say is this, but fear those that are able
to kill.
The Greek actually says extinguish the spirit.
Bingo.
Wow, so once we learn to get out of this body and overcome this death, we may well have another challenge of learning to overcome spiritual death. And if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he talks about once you get out of this body, having to flee from entities that are trying to extinguish your spirit. He talks about staying in circles and staying out of angles. And so wow, that's profound. I bet there is another. This is just stage one.
Yes, sir.
There might be many deaths.
You know,
the only two that we are given information of right now, because they're the only two we can handle.
So where I got on track on this was that I was awakened yesterday by a vision, and I wrote it down because I keep my post-it notes everywhere. And I saw the atom, ATOM. And the atom spoke and said, I am God. You can't, it was so profound. I was there. I don't know how to explain this, Jeff, but I was immersed in this vision. I was standing, I don't know if this is possible. I'm going to bring it up to Dr. Albers tomorrow. I was standing in the middle of an atom.
That's interesting.
I could see a proton. I could see electrons. I could see neutrons.
They probably looked a lot like our solar system.
It reminded me of us. I mean, so, I woke up and I told Lynn, and I just shaking my head, my dog is looking at me, and I said, this was profound. I don't know what it still means, but it said the atom, and the atom spoke and it said, I am God.
Wow.
But I
So we're
think
all the Adams family.
exactly. I just want to know where cousin It is at. But the
Exactly.
second death, this is something that, you know, when you look at this life, I did a video this week. Have you learned to be you yet?
That's
Um,
good.
because I think if you leave here not knowing who you are, you're going to get slaughtered on the other side.
Yeah, that's my point exactly. That you just said it in a different way. We come back until we figure out who we are and what we are, and we're
Yeah.
able to move in divinity and sovereignty and freedom within that realization.
Yeah. So,
And again, I mean, we've got this whole perception of there's heaven, total bliss. There's this conception of hell, total suffering. And you're speaking of Taoism. Probably the truth is the middle way, somewhere between those extremes.
I think you're right. It's just, how do you find it? And it's almost that precipitous walk on that edge of a razor blade. You know,
Right.
what is it? They say that you can put 1,000 angels on the tip of a needle or something, or, you know,
Right.
you think about it. And so
It's
getting,
interesting, Wayne, just to follow that analogy. I used to play hockey a lot. And a hockey blade, I won't draw it. A hockey blade, if you keep going straight the way a hockey skate is cut, you will go straight. But the second you start leaning to the left or leaning to the right, those edges are going to catch and you're going to veer off. You're going to veer off from the straight and narrow way if we talk about it. So, and when the master talked about sin is missing the mark, he was talking about an archery analogy, meaning that if you don't stay balanced, it's hard to hit a target with an arrow. And if you think about the hockey analogy, to stay on the straight and narrow path, you have to stay balanced. Because if you lean one way or the other, if you get out of balance, your edges are going to catch and you're going to turn those particular ways. So maybe we're here to learn how to skate. And I actually learned how to skate backwards in a dream a few years ago. So that was kind of
cool. That is cool. I have some friends that are pilots, and it's interesting when you were making that analogy that when you plot your course for air travel, you have to be spot on in exactly what degree you're going to.
You
Because
do.
because if you're off a half a degree, you're going to be 100 miles away from your destination.
Absolutely. And you have to account for wind speed and we're
Oh,
not, I
yeah.
don't want to upset our flat earthers, but there's a lot of things that go into those calculations. And
Yeah.
I was a C-130 crew chief in the Air Force, and I used to sit there and watch the navigator plot this stuff. And I know what goes into plotting these courses, and it's a lot more than we think. And if they're not exactly right, you don't get where you're going. And that's the way life is. If you don't have a navigator in your life, and if you're not using I don't know what all those tools are called, you're not going to get to where you want to go.
And I think that's why they're desperately searching. That's why we're pulled to religion, because religion, what it provides humanity, is a safety net.
A perceived safety net.
Yes, sir.
You know what it really provides, Wayne? It provides somebody else to do it for us. It relieves us of the responsibility of responsibility.
Yes, sir. I think that is exactly, and you don't have to think this. Someone had told me yesterday, they said, "You think too much." And I said, that was the problem most of my life, is that I didn't think enough.
People want to walk into a building, check their brain at the door, plug into the Ethernet, and just get the download, feel good about themselves, and go home until next Sunday.
And that's about how it is.
Or Saturday or Friday, depending on your brand of Abrahamic religion.
So I keep on thinking that we're the persecuted party now. It's like someone said to me yesterday, "Well, aren't you afraid that you've rejected God?" I said, "I didn't say that. I said I reject all of these world gods."
That's right. And it's funny, I saw something somewhere today. I can't remember where I saw it. Somebody sent it to me as a comment on my channel. And it said, a lot of Christians right now are complaining about persecution, and they built their religion by persecuting other people. Karma's a bitch.
This is a religion that I had someone try to challenge me on this, because I made the comment. I said, there's 500 million bodies and counting. And they said, well, where were all these people killed? And I said, good
Really?
Lord, man. I said, where do you want to start? I said, let's start with the Spanish expansion into Central and South America.
Yeah.
How many millions? And we know it's almost 200 million people that were sacrificed. And I said, now let's go to Europe. I said, how many people over the last, what would you say, Jeff, 1,500 years, 1,400 years? I'd say that. And I said, died in the name of the church.
And how many people died at the edge of a Roman sword
Yeah.
because they wouldn't convert?
And that's how it went.
If you want to do something fun, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a fun little experience, it's a rainy Sunday afternoon here in South Florida. Probably aren't going to be able to get out. So if you want to do a fun little experience, and if you have any type of an empirical mind about yourself, pick up your Bible, just go to the Old Testament and start reading through and start looking at when a supernatural being kills people. Look for whenever you see God killing people, put a check mark. Whenever you see the devil killing people, put a check mark. And I think at the end of that study, you're going to be shocked to see how many people loving, kind, peaceful, holy God killed versus how many people wicked, evil, nasty Satan killed. It might just change your perspective. So if you aren't really ready to learn, don't do it.
Pope Leo X. What a character he was. A pedophile, apparently a raving homosexual on top of that. He is quoted as saying, how well we know what a profitable superstition this fable of Christ has been for us.
Absolutely. And then it was when was Pope Leo?
14, Pope was around there, 1513, 1521.
And it wasn't, it was less than 500 years later that Mr. Stalin said that religion's a beautiful opiate for the masses.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's a fear and guilt control matrix.
And, someone said, well, you're always picking on the Christian. I said, listen, I don't know what it is to be a Muslim. I don't know what it is to be a Hindu. I can only speak from that which I know of.
Yeah. That's why I talk about Christianity. Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, I spent 20 years promoting it. I've spent almost 40 years studying it. And in my world, in the Western world, it's not only the dominant religion, but our cultures, our institutions, our governments, our laws are all based upon it. So it's very important, in my view, that we have an accurate understanding of what Roman Christianity is, whether it be Roman Catholicism or Roman Protestantism. I'm not trying to get you to change your religion. Personally, I don't really care. It's none of my business. But what is my business is getting you as much data and information as possible so you can make the most informed decision. Love me or hate me, I'm the mailman. I'm wearing blue shorts and a light blue shirt, driving a funny little white car. I'm just putting the information in your box. What you do with it is up to you, cousin.
The true test of one's core beliefs is when you have to go in and take a sworn oath before the court. Are you going to put your hand on that Bible? Or are you going to tell the judge, I don't believe in that God?
What would the judge say if you didn't want to swear on the Bible?
Constitutionally, they can't reject it. The only thing you can do is take an oath to the state.
So you're allowed to solemnly affirm, according to the laws of the state.
It's an oath to the state. Yeah.
Nothing but the truth. And what would really happen in our lives and in our relationships if we told the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Maybe we don't want to do that all the time in our relationships because there's some truths that don't need to be said.
Well, listen, discretion is always the high road.
Discretion is the better part of valor, as they say.
It is.
And if Sandra says to me, does this dress make my butt look fat?
You don't say a word. You know what you respond?
It doesn't matter what the dress looks like. The answer to that question is always, of course not, sweetheart.
No, and what Lynn asked me that one time, and I looked at her and I said, do I look stupid?
I remember I was on a boat one time, Wayne. I was on a boat, and this is way back in the day, back when I wasn't who I am today. I was on a boat. I won a trip with, I think I was working with the phone company at that time. I won this trip to Hawaii, and I took this person with me. And we're on this boat. And I should have known better because I seen that she had had a few drinks because they were free and we're on the boat. And she asked me the question of, and this shows how stupid you can be, and this going to our point. If you weren't with me, who else would you want to be with on this boat? And I was dumb enough to name someone. So yeah, I've been there and done that.
Yeah. That's a faux pas that one remembers.
Oh yeah, and that it was really ugly.
My biggest professional faux pas was.
I know what's coming.
I mean that was over 35 years ago, and
that's when you asked the lady how many months along she was, and she wasn't pregnant.
Yeah, I asked her, exactly. Boop. And the problem was she was the CFO.
Yeah, I'm guessing you didn't make that sale.
Actually, we made the deal, but boy, did I learn a lesson on that one. And she never let me forget it.
I'll bet you did. And that's why I've always said, this is probably something I need to stop saying. I've always said to people, if you don't ask me a question you don't really want the answer to. But that's very egoic. I mean, there's times when people ask you questions that you don't, or are there times, let's talk about this. If someone asks you a question when like, who else on this boat would you be with if you weren't with me? Do you really want to answer those type of questions? Or sometimes you just want to say, oh, there's no one.
I would resort to this. By the way, I just want to say there's a little footnote to that event. I think because of the empathic point that many of us have, she did get pregnant about 2 months later. And I did not know this, but they had a very difficult time, her and her husband, conceiving.
Wow.
But yeah. So getting back to your point, what was your point?
I don't know. Are there times when sharing our truth is not loving?
Yeah. You see, that's the problem with, that's where I revert to Proverbs. Even a fool seems wise who keeps his mouth shut.
Right.
Yeah. It's like,
and I deal with that because I always feel like I have to speak everything that comes into my mind. And I always feel like everything that I know and think is very profound and that people will really benefit from hearing what I have to say. And Wayne, I'm discovering, much to my chagrin, that that's not always the case, as hard as it is to believe.
Well, I have a T-shirt that I'll be wearing in our next show, and I'll just tell you what it says. It says, live your truth.
Yeah.
And I believe in the end, that's all we have, Jeff. I think back with Lynn and I, and we're very close, closer I've been to any other human being.
Right.
And the thing is that we both acknowledge we can never touch each other's core. We can't.
Would you want to if you could?
I don't think so. I think that it's amazing because, Jeff, we're all immersed into this tapestry we call reality.
Right.
But we're each individual.
We're supposed to be, at least.
Well, we meet once a week, every 168 hours. You and I meet and
you and I.
Pardon?
You and I?
Yeah, each Sunday. That's 168 hours. And we intersect each other's reality. We have an opportunity to exchange thought. We've never met physically, but we have the opportunity to see our representations. But when we go off this show, you're back into your reality because your reality is what you observe, and I'm off into mine. I can't observe your reality.
No, you really can't. You can never truly see life through my eyes.
No, I can't.
And I can never truly see life through your eyes. Should we be trying to touch the core of our mate? Should we be trying to see life through their eyes? Or should we just, is trying to see life through their eyes like this? And should we just allow them to live their life and just be next to them like that?
Thing that comes to mind immediately is I have a battery. I have a positive and a negative charge. If I cross those wires and allow the negative and negative to hit, what's going to happen?
Nothing
Poosh!
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, you see, I think that you never can merge. I just don't see it. I know you can become so close that the energy is almost seems like it's intertwined. And we see these examples when married couples have been married for 50, 60 years. Yeah,
Everything works good in this scenario.
yeah.
There's a lot
What?
of power in that scenario. You get
So,
down here in this scenario, and what you got in my art is not that great, but what you got is a fire.
yeah,
And in relationships, it's a dumpster fire. We've all seen it.
yeah.
And it's not a matter of if things are going to catch fire. It's not a matter of if there's going to be a conflagration. It's a matter of when.
And the thing about it is, you see that
This is
intersection.
fireproof up here, by the way.
Yeah. So the intersection, that's heat.
Oh, it's
And-
friction. Wayne, you just
Yeah.
hit it. This is friction. And sooner or later, all friction will cause heat, and sooner or later, all heat will cause fire.
Yeah.
And this is what the world and the Abrahamic faiths are teaching us to be.
Yeah.
Why?
It shorts you out.
They want to short us out. And plus, if you've got this scenario, if you infect one of those, you're going to be able to infect both of those.
Easily.
Up here, and this can go on and on and on, in society and a family. To take one person down, all you got to do is to take all of them down, all you got to do is infect one of them.
Yep.
Wow, this is good stuff. That positive negative battery analogy is powerful. So what's the takeaway from that, Wayne?
Well, again, it's what we struggle for all of our lives is, who are we? Who am I? And when when I fall in love with someone, how do I begin to integrate that into my life, her life? How do we find that neutral path? And that just hit it. In your
The middle.
drawings, you have to hit the neutrality zone, and that's the zone between the two circles.
So and what we know from physics is that even though it looks like two things are right next to each other, and that looks like, they're kind of touching each other, if we could blow that up under a microscope, at the end of the day, there really would be a gap between them.
Precisely.
They wouldn't be completely connected.
And when you
That's
try
because
to
they're
force that,
autonomous.
you're going to get, wow, I'm just seeing this. When you try to split the atom, what do you get?
You get a big explosion.
Nuclear fusion.
And if your relationship
Wow.
looks like what we were talking about before, if it has a place where it is together, it can be split. And if you know anything about living life, sooner or later it will be split. And when it splits, it's not just a fire; it's a
Nuclear.
It's a marshmallow or a mushroom cloud, isn't it?
And what's happening in there is that you are altering elements.
Ooh, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to
Yeah.
change people.
Wow.
We're trying to change people. When you've got this scenario, there's never any interaction. There's never any friction. There's never any heat. There's never any explosions. There's never any mushroom clouds.
It's called coexistence. You got the coefficiency working.
Why is this so hard, and why do we want that enmeshment so bad? Because we've been trained that it's the right way for 2,000 years?
Yeah, that I would agree with. I think this is.
I know this is right, and I still have trouble with it. To this day, I'm working through it.
Well, this is profound, because you can carry this all the way up to the next level.
Which is?
Well, it's in the search of the divine.
Oh, yeah.
You see, I think so often we get I did for decades, was that I needed to immerse myself into Christ, because that would allow me to be immersed into God.
Right.
That's not what God created me for.
And Wayne, if you think about it, true divinity wants you to be divine, sovereign, and free. In the Christian religion, and that's what we both know, so we'll talk about it, you walk down to the front of a altar, front of a church, to what's called an altar. What happens on an altar? Sacrifices are made at an altar. You walk down to an altar, and you can't say it under your breath. You've got to speak out loud this oath, and you've got to ask this being to come into your life. And this being says that I and my Father will come into you, and we will make our abode in you. We will live inside you. You go down, you chant a mantra, 2 beings at least, and of course the Master told us it's usually 7, and that word 7 could be 70 times 7, it could be 70. So you go down there, and at least 2 beings come into you. Anywhere else, that's called demon possession. But at church, it's called getting saved.
Man, that's
Wakey, eggs and bakey. How can you not see this, my friends?
that's a crowded house.
Me and my daddy are going to come live in you.
Ooh. You see?
Oh, my. And then they say your life's not yours anymore. It's ours.
Yeah. And you
know
make
what
that.
It comes down to, Wayne? It comes down to a lack of self-love. It's a lack of self-worth. We can't make it on our own. We got to be possessed by plastic Jesus and his big daddy, because we can't make it on our own.
Well, and the challenge is going to be counter to this is that, well, you guys come against a faith, and that's what they'll use, and you're not talking the positive side. You're not talking about the fact that there's morals taught. You're not talking about the fact that it builds character. And I told this individual, I said, oh, really? I said, the whole thing I've ever found in this religion was hypocrisy. Yeah. I said, it's the antithesis of everything you just said. Because I said, my experience is the ones that attack me, the ones who are casting me into hell, condemning me, judging me, yada, 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 are the very ones who are proclaiming love, but they never show it.
Yep. Sandra says it's codependency, which is an addiction.
Yes, Sandra. Yes.
Christianity is an addiction.
It is. Wow, this is so profound, because as I was coming into my office, I had this thought. It's like someone was asking me the question, why do people read their Bible every day? I mean, you read the book, you've read the book, you reread the book. Why?
I've read it over 100 times.
Yeah. Man. And, it was like I had to stop, and I said, well, why is it? I have a really good memory. I mean, really good. And I can memorize books. Right. And I'm going, well, why is that? So why is that, Jeff? Why is it that you have to read over and over and over, and apparently get new revelation every time you reread it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it birthed in a fear of being alone?
Yes.
Lack of self-worth?
Yes.
Or is it more lack of responsibility? Let me have the big Santa Claus in the sky take care of me.
Yeah. As one person said to me on Friday, quoted 2 Peter. He says, well, you are exactly what Peter was writing about. And I said, be that as though it may. I never met the dude.
Right.
So I can't authenticate what he is attributed to say or not to say. But I said, if he existed, I'd have a very frank discussion with him.
With Peter? Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean that I have profaned the blood of the Christ and trampled it underfoot, then tasted the Spirit, and therefore there is no longer any redemption?
Is that, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that 2 Peter, or is that Hebrews?
No, it's
Paul said something very similar to those that have trampled underfoot the blood of the Son of Man.
I think it's 2 Peter.
Redemption, but a certain fearful looking for a fiery indignation which shall devour the wicked. But yeah, but this Christian person has no problem quoting that verse. When Jesus said, "No more blood sacrifice."
Yeah.
Forgiveness comes through baptism. And then if you didn't get that, he walked into the temple and stopped the sacrifice on Passover. But yet you want to talk about this blood of Jesus.
And I challenged this guy. I said, well, so what you're literally saying is that this was a human sacrifice. Oh, no. He went voluntarily. I said, well, if that's the case, then it was a murder-suicide.
Exactly.
He says, you're twisting and profaning. And I said, no, I am just simply addressing the facts here.
Exactly.
You know,
Everywhere else, this would be called a possession. They make movies about these things.
yes.
But just because it happens in a church where some dude's wearing a dress or a $5,000 suit, all of a sudden it's sanctified and holy.
Now, I had a Catholic come back and tell me, no, you're wrong. The Catholic belief is that Jesus was God. And I said, then here's the fraud. He never was human.
Right. And if he was never really human, he can't be a redemption.
Can't be doing anything. All
Yeah.
he was a messenger.
To my point, Sandra says that her original point was that what was her original point about? Is it that it's birthed out of fear?
Yeah.
Fear being alone, a lack of self-worth.
It's an addiction.
I said, is it that, or is it lack of wanting to be responsible? And she responded, a lack of responsibility. Lack of responsibility. I lost it, Wayne. I'm trying to find it again.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Lack of responsibility comes from not knowing how, not having desire to know, or fear of knowing. Either way you slice it, it's all fear-based, which is of the enemy.
And here's my take. At 63,
Absolutely.
I have come to the conclusion, I want to get to know this infinite being, but it's like anything else. I can't just simply walk up to a woman and say, listen, I know you're supposed to love me. And either you love me or you're going to face death.
Well, you can do it, but you're not going to be successful at it.
Yeah, I mean, you know why Lynn and I are so close? We are each other's best friend.
Right.
We became best friends before we became lovers. And that friendship is what's built a beautiful relationship. It's one that I desire to be around her. It's one that I enjoy conversing. And
right.
Where I look to a God would be through the same process. Why do I need an intermediary? Because somehow or another, my species sinned? How can you condemn a species to the act of one individual?
Would you be with Lynn if she was insanely jealous?
No.
Would you be with Lynn if she was exceedingly wrathful?
No.
Would you be with Lynn if she killed people and said it was okay because they didn't agree with me? Would you be with Lynn if she demanded that you actually worship her?
Yeah, not a way.
Would you be with Lynn if she demanded that you do exactly what she says without even thinking about it?
No.
That's what the Christian God demands, every one of those things.
Yeah.
And if you were a woman, he would also say you can't even talk.
That's exactly right.
And it wasn't my fault, it was your fault for eating the apple, and that you were only created for the sexual gratification of men, and that if it wasn't for me, you'd be having sex with all kind of evil spirits.
And and by the way, that dogma is profound through many different religions. And I'm going, when are women going to, that's the problem. You look at today in our society, we are so out of balance with each other.
Yeah.
Speaking about our species and that the fact that within the sexuality of our species, we still can't seem to get it right. It's ridiculous.
And Wayne, the funny thing is, I was the Pentecostal evangelist for 20 years, and that meant that I would go from church to church to church, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And every church I was ever in, Wayne, it was probably at least 60% female, more like usually 75% ladies.
Yep.
The ladies are the ones funding Christianity. The ladies are the ones supporting Christianity. The ladies are the reason why the churches are full. And if they would just sit down and look and read what the founder of that religion says about them, I have to ask this, Wayne, ladies, are you stupid or are you masochists? Why do you go and support and pay for something that says these things about you? What's wrong with you? I don't think you're stupid, ladies. I really don't.
And I think that's the out of balance part.
But you're sure if you're not stupid, you're doing a good impersonation of stupid. I know that's going to get me in trouble, but.
I look at some of the past leaders, Margaret Thatcher, Golda Meir. These were powerful women.
Absolutely.
And the byproduct of their administrations, for the most part, their cultures lived in peace. They had prosperity, and there was more, I guess, unity between the sexes.
Hmm.
Today, it's gotten so bad out there. It's I don't know, Jeff. I I I do a lot of videos, and because I have, like I said, I have friends that when they're out on patrol, they're seeing a side of society that they'll tell you, in their opinions, they're watching it being breaking down.
Yeah. And
Law and order.
going back to one of your earlier points, I do think there are souls filled with either evil spirits or no spirits.
I think that odd that you say that, because one said almost that. He said there are some soulless people out there.
There are.
Just he's
There are some empty shells
Yep.
that are not, they're not humans.
Yeah. He says they have this.
John says that women are indoctrinated just like the men. But in this society, was it the old Mel Brooks or Monty Python? It's good to be the king. In this society, it's good to be the man.
It is.
I like
Yeah.
that man indoctrination, because it lets us be that women have to submit to men. That's good if you're the man. Women have to have sex with the man when he wants. That's good if you're a man. Women are in the kitchen making a sandwich. That's good if you're a man. They're not allowed to speak up or have authority over you. That's good if you're a man. It's not your fault. It was their fault. That's good if you're a man. That's why men push it and believe it and support it. But the problem is the ladies are supporting it. They're the ones that are putting the dollars in the offering baskets. If they would stop, it would all crash.
It would. It would.
Ladies, why are you doing this? Let's put an end. You could end Christianity in, how long does it take for an organization that's financially healthy to go bankrupt if 70% of its revenues go away, Wayne?
About 30 days, they got the for sale sign on.
So if women decided that they're not going to take this crap anymore, they could crash Christianity in 60 days.
Yeah. Listen, the Vatican didn't become the #1 real estate owner just because everyone gave to them.
That's right.
So let me ask you something.
Church has a lot of this too.
Oh, yeah. The Vatican actually has a bank. They're a part of the central bank.
Vatican Bank, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been thinking about this. So once male, always male, even on the other side? Once female, always female?
Or are we essentially neither? That's a great question. That's a really great question. Or do we incarnate as both here to understand what it's all about? My blink says that we're neither once we leave here. We're just spirit. But yet there's still female spirits. You know what? I'm betwixt and between.
Yeah, it's really odd.
Female spirits, like the Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
The Elohim were gods, are gods. We don't know what level, but they are male and female.
What if, and I'm just saying as we're talking, that when we transcend, and I contend that that's why AI can never be superior. That's what AI is searching for, because mankind does transcend. But here's the point. Maybe we're like the being that if I turn my face this way, I am male. If I turn my face this way, I'm female.
If you put a gun to my head and said I had to pick, I would say that we do remain male or female after we leave here.
That's an interesting perspective.
But I think part of being here is to find your counterpart, and then when you leave here, you can leave, maybe if you choose to, as a whole Elohim. I don't know.
See, it's deep thought. I mean,
it's super deep.
It is. It's something is, but Jeff, the answer is there for us. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah. Well, don't you know that Jesus said we're neither married or given in marriage? We're like the angels in heaven. We're not talking about angels. We're talking about us.
Yeah. Again, it's angels. That's the thing I keep contending, Jeff. When we pass over to the other side, how can another spirit who never went through the rite of birth initiation, being born into the physical body, ever come against a judgment against me when they never have gone through the same rite?
That's why it says we'll judge angels, not
I
angels.
see. Now
And
that
that's why angels are jealous of us.
Yeah.
Because we have access to get to a place that's higher than they have access to. And think about it. If you're a being that has been you're an angel, and you've been an angel for eons and eons and eons, and you've been a good angel. And here's this being that the Elohim decide they're going to create with this potentiality to surpass you in a single human lifetime. How would you feel?
I'd be going, your mama.
Exactly. Maybe you can understand the whole Lucifer scenario a little bit better now.
It's like, Jack, not on my watch. And you're going, bring it on, Jack. Come on.
Again, and another take on a very, where did I put my paper? Another take on a very popular parable. This whole parable of, the servants that go to work in the vineyard, and the ones that go first get paid an amount, and the ones that only worked for an hour got paid the same amount. Maybe that's a picture of how the angels view this whole thing too.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was
Who are these little monkey guys that you're going to not only give the same thing as you give me, but more?
The
parable of the talents.
Yeah. The first of the series, Legion, dealt when Satan approached the detective up there on the Indian reservation. And what Satan said to him was very interesting. He said, "We hate you, you monkey man, because we ascended before you were ever a thought. And how dare you think you can walk on our ground, monkey man."
And not only that you have the potential to be higher than we are.
Yeah.
We will judge angels.
And then
he said, judge somebody that you're on a par with. You don't judge somebody that you're inferior to. You are asked to make judgment, legal judgment, or, render righteous verdicts. That makes you a judge. That makes you in a higher authority.
Yeah. The one thing I can always say this, if Lucifer exists, he'll never manifest before me, because here's the thing. That cat has never done what I've done. So that makes me superior to him no matter what. That's why hell can't exist.
Yeah.
How can you go and take a sentient being who has gone through the rite of birth passage and have something that's so low that's never even had that right, and how some ascend them over you? Nah, I ain't buying that.
I remember one time I was doing some work with R.W. Shambach.
You ain't got no problem disbelief. What was his moniker? Just have faith.
You don't have no problems. Just have faith in God.
Yeah, something like that.
And he walked up to me and he said, "Why are you so afraid of the devil?" And he was reading my mail. I'm like, "Whoa, how'd you know that, Brother Shambach?" He goes, "Let me tell you about the devil. When I'm asleep in my bed at night, sometimes I will feel something sit on the end of my bed. I look up and it's the devil, and I say, 'Oh, it's just you, devil,' and I roll over and I go back to sleep." And Wayne, I want you to know that changed my life.
Did it?
It changed my life. I'm like, you know what? You're right. He can't do nothing to me.
Excellent. I love this. This is why I get up on Sunday mornings, We have
Shambach.
I like it. I do remember him so well. We had him at a camp meeting. And, yeah.
I used to love his radio show. And let's go into a camp meeting service already in progress.
The man
Lift
could
both
preach.
hands and shout hallelujah. That was R.W. He was something else.
3 hours. Yeah, man, I'll tell you what.
Could he tear up a buffet?
Yes, he could. It reminds me of Louis Anderson when the Chinese owner said, "You no come in here no more." All you can eat for.
I was at a buffet with him one time, and he came back and sat down, and I don't know how he got so much on his plate. And he said, "Brother, can you do me a favor and go get me another one just like this?" Like, yes, sir, Brother Shambach.
I guess that what was the gluttony is what, the fifth deadly sin or something.
Yeah, but he was a little heavy, but he was no John Hagee.
No.
Not that we're naming names.
No, that's every time I see someone like, Hagee, I think that, the old Saturday night thing, baseball's been very, very good.
Very good to me. Yeah.
It's like this religion's been very good.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got off on that, but it's probably.
I don't know. Well, another good show, Jeff.
Another good show, and a good time was had by all.
I hope
Never
everyone
Clark asks
enjoyed
a
this.
question I have to answer. I get this all the time. Well, Jeff, how do we know what's diamond? How do we know what's dung? What part of the Bible do we accept and what part do we throw out? How do you know when you're eating what part you're going to eat and what part you're going to spit out? How do you know when someone's talking to you what part to believe and what part not to believe? You got to get familiar with it. You've got to get your blink tuned in. You've got to get your analytical mind repaired and fixed. You got to take the responsibility to know yourself. I can't tell you. Wayne can't tell you. And even if we could, we wouldn't.
Nah, be doing you a disservice.
You got to figure it out on your own, cousin.
And I'd just like to add to that, Jeff, read other books.
Read other books. Absolutely. Broaden your horizon.
You know, go and pick up the Vedic. Look at the religion. I mean, Jeff and I, we're reading the Urantia book. Yeah. But it is expanding. You know, I like what they say about paradise, that paradise is the place where perfect peace exists.
Yes.
No thought. But the Elohim escaped out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'll tell you. And then when I learned their difference between the divine and deity.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Jeff, how's your week? What you got going on this week?
Well, I have Rex Bear later on tonight or later on this afternoon.
What time?
We have, believe it's 3 p.m. Let me double check.
Excellent. Excellent.
I've got my worship device right here.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
My scheduling device. Let's see. Where is it? Rex Bear. We got it 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which would be 3 p.m. Eastern.
Time. Yeah. Yeah.
So 3 p.m. Eastern today. Rex Bear, man, myth, legend. Tomorrow I've got Jay Campbell coming on. We've got Derek Rose from Global Witness coming back. Another big one that has slipped my mind. Hans Wilhelm. Do you know Hans Wilhelm?
Mm-mm.
He's going to come on. And the guy, Raj Wiseman, who wrote the Baba G book, that is the big craze right now, is also going to come on. So a lot of powerful,
good.
exciting stuff coming up. And when you live with her, things are pretty exciting all the time.
Yes. Yes. Well, it sounds like you got a good week coming in. Much success on that.
Great stuff, man. How about you? What are you doing?
You know, I'm just I'm doing what I do all the time. Just, you know, constantly researching and posting out. I'm going to be doing a video on AI and Nibiru.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And a little anecdote to this. Yesterday, I saw a young woman who was, I think she was in her teens, maybe late teens. And when I mentioned about the memory device, she admitted to that. She says, this is the only thing I have that has all of my pictures on it.
Exactly.
I went, there you go.
There you go. Wow.
So I continue to say that if evolution exists, which I do believe it is, are we in the midst of seeing the creation of a new species that will be known as the Homo electro digital, the electric digital man?
Could very well be something to ponder for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, well, my friend,
all of you being here seeking after truth, the divinity in me recognizes the divinity,
folks.
I wish you all much love and light. For Wayne Steiger, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, and this is the New Cosmic Knowledge channel. Go watch or go subscribe to Wayne's channel, R. Wayne Steiger. And we look forward to seeing you again next Sunday. Leave us with a word of wisdom, Wayne, until next week.
Well, if you don't know yourself, how do you know what you don't know?
And did you listen to the morning mantra I did today?
I did not, but I was out.
It's called Check Yourself.
Really?
Look into yourself, see what you're doing, see why you're doing it, check in on your motivation. So basically, I just said, know yourself like you just did.
You see, this is why I know that this is good.
Yep, and we didn't even talk to each other about that before.
We did not.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, nice to see you, and we'll
Bye,
see
guys.
you next week, and we'll see you over on Wayne's channel, and we'll see you later on for the great extravaganza with the man, the myth, the legend, Rex. And we don't have an agenda. We're going to do something that
Oh
I've
boy.
never seen him do before. We're going to talk about Rex Bear.
Woo! Now I'm going to see
How about
that.
that? We'll see you again soon.
All right. Bye bye.